Hi there, everybody. It is me, Madam Onça. Welcome to some casual style tarot talk for the Tower Times. It is what? It is the 5th. So happy Cinco de Mayo, or day after the 4th when we drink a 5th, whatever it is you like to do on this day. Hope you're having a good day. As you can see, my setup is a little bit more leisurely this week. I think that's the mood that we are all in right now. Hello, BLC Blondie. We have jumped here in Awesome Town. We have jumped directly from 2 weeks of spring to the swelterfest that is the Virginia summer. The mosquitoes have come out. The backs of our necks are damp and humid, and we are doing our best to live entirely on mint juleps and or lemon water. Yes, the revenge of the Sith. Yeah, that's where we are. I know some of y'all might have been with us today when we were doing some creating with the crew. If so, perhaps you got to see Louis hard at work from Level Up with Louis and Little Empire, hard at work making his fantastic creations. And yeah, everybody was up to some good doings. I myself was sitting in this very same chair a few hours ago working on art for this very same tarot project. So this chair, the chair of the Metatron, the Floratron, is getting some love. What do we say? Oh, you've been that way in South Carolina for a few weeks. Yes, the Swelterfest is afoot. I used to live in North Carolina for many, many years. And of course, we had seasons there. I don't think that quite prepared me for what Virginia has to offer as far as the sheer dampness. I am originally from New England, and while it does get hot there, it's an island. It's windy. It's not quite like this. So I understand why people might have opted for a nomadic lifestyle. That being said, I could just shut all the doors and turn on the air conditioning, but I'm not quite ready to go there yet either. So thank you so much for being with me. Anybody who doesn't already know me, I am Madam Onça. I am the artist and co-author of The World Spirit Tarot. See if I can get it right there. I'm going to be running everything on one camera tonight. What I like to do during this time is do a bit of edutainment, as it were. I will share a bit of information about the cards, history, utility, and so forth. Usually squeeze in some social commentary like we do. And then if anybody needs a tarot reading, I'm happy to read some cards for you. I did some research to find out what cards we needed to talk about tonight, because due to the need to schedule some games for the Patreon saints of this channel here of Nat 21 Adventures, it's been a few weeks since we met, and I actually had to go back and find out where we were in our sequence. This marks my 10th week of doing this, sharing this with you. So I hope that's working for everybody. I hope you're finding it helpful. And I thank you so much for continuing to show up. Sometimes folks ask like how they can really support the arts in America. And I have to say a big part of it is just showing up. Every city I've ever lived in and worked in, people say, well, this is a very last minute town, as if any city has the market cornered on being a last minute town. If you want to keep your local venues alive, if you want to keep your local artists working, even your local coffee shop that is, the mom and pop variety rather than the big chain variety, what you need to do is sometimes try to show up. And that's y'all. So thank you for being here. I guess while I'm speaking in exhortations and superlatives, that's a great point of departure for today, because today is all about the tens, which are cards that have a lot to say. They do a lot of yelling, one might say. Also, I have to say they do a lovely job of doubling as a fan. Get your tarot decks out and fan yourselves as you may be needing to. Actually, before we start talking about the 10 specifically, I wanted to show you something. So this is the back of this edition. That's the second edition. I happen to have the block print for that here in my very chair. So I'm going to hold them up for comparison. Here's the hand-colored version. So I drew it in reverse, carved it out, printed it in black on white paper, and then hand-colored it. So you can see that's where it ended up. And this is where it started. So for any folks who are sort of keeping abreast of the carving process at home, boop, there you go. So you can see that the originals have, they're quite a bit bigger, by easily a third, and some. So that allows me to fit a lot of detail in there. It does present me with an interesting challenge. I've thought about making a smaller version of these cards because, they're kind of wide. They're made for my hands, and not everybody has wide hands. So I thought about making these in more of the traditional game size, like poker size. The challenge is just that, you can see there's a lot of detail in there. I am concerned that if these cards were to become 30% smaller, that we might lose some of that. If you have any thoughts about that, those of you that are either ardent gamers or graphically inclined, please let me know what you think, because it's been on my mind, and I've done some crunching of numbers and art and so forth, but it's a big commitment to make 1,000 of these, only to decide that you should not have done it that way. So I know we've got some smart folks out there about the graphics. Yeah, so there we go. All this with a little tiny chisel. And over the years, because I have been block printing since I was 15, I would say, maybe 14, 15, yeah, 15, which was a minute ago. I have actually literally got hundreds of these blocks. I used to joke that I could hold my futon up off the floor when I had a futon with just these, because they are essentially bricks, but made of wood or particle board, as the case may be. Alrighty, let us commence to talk about tens. And thank you for the compliment. They are kind of cool. Okay. So, as we have discussed in weeks gone by, as you may recall, to review, in a traditional tarot deck, there are 5 different suits. 4 of them are minor arcana. Those are the ones that you recognize from your modern playing decks, basically ace through 10, plus some court or face cards. And then the major arcana, which are the splashy ones that make it into the movies, as it were. There has been a case made that the court cards, those face cards, really kind of are a whole suit unto themselves. That is almost a larger question than I can answer here today, but every once in a while you may hear somebody refer to them as sort of the third set of cards. But we've got 4 different suits that we're going to talk about today, and they are analogous to what you see in your modern playing cards for reasons having to do with history and various cultures. Swords would be spades, or spade, as they say in Italian, which is the word for sword, which represent the element of air. Discernment, ideas, logic, decision-making, boundaries. We've got pentacles, which are sometimes known as coins, stones, or denier, which is the French word for coins. They are heavy, round, solid things. And in the tarot, they represent the element of earth and literally everything that is of this world, your practical stuff. They are practical matters, decisions, resources, health, wealth. They are your gold coins, your hit points, perhaps even your spell slots, as it were. They're what you have to work with. Then we've got, and those would be, those would have been diamonds in the old deck. Then we've got wands, which are also clubs, because of course the wand is the long stick. The club, that's just the 3, it's a stylized version of the 3 leaves coming off the top. It's as if we saw the wand and zoomed in order to make the club. Same image, different director's cut, let's say. And wands traditionally represent fire. And when it comes to areas in your life, wands usually come up around career, drive, passion, bucket listy type of things. And then what else do we have? We've got cups. That may be Sev coming to talk about paint, or maybe not.
Nope, absolutely.
Okay, never mind. We always have a lot going on over here. So then we've got, yes, cups. Cups, of course, are also hearts, which are also water, which are also there to speak to everything to do with the emotional realm. our sense of connectivity to ourselves and often also to others. So those tend to be thought of as the relational suit. So there's your quick recap of where we are and what we're doing. Now, numerologically speaking, aces tend to speak to the raw potential. And then as you go from ace, 2, 3, 4, we essentially see the story of the suit unfold and sort of raise in volume or intensity as we go from ace to 10. So we have seen each of these, if you've been with us this whole time, you've seen each of these go from its sort of nascent state of potential, again, going up incrementally all the way to the 10. I generally think of the 10s as being almost a little too much of a good thing. We'll actually see as we break them down. A couple of them are actually, they're really nice, but what they do, the 10s are sort of the most, let's just say the most extreme representation of what that suit is about. They kind of fall into like half of these are nice and half of these are tough. 9s to me are the sort of optimal. When we get to the 9s, we see the optimal personification of the suit. 10s can be a little bit much. For anybody who's not sure quite what that means, hopefully it will make sense in just a minute. And if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I know there's probably just a few of us here tonight because it's been a while. Yes, Tarot Talk is back. Thank you. Yeah, I had to take a few weeks off because there were scheduling challenges for Net 21. Busy people, a lot of things, a lot of programming to fit in here. So I am back. Let us hit these 10s. Let's start with our 10 of Wands, shall we? So again, Wands, passion, drive, ambition, career, bucket listy type things. And the 10, that is an extreme expression of everything in the suit of fire. What we see here is burnout. Here we see a person who has said yes to so many things, capable multitasker that they are. They have overextended and things are beginning to rain down upon their head. Oh, thank you very much. Welcome back. I was missed. Thanks. That's great. So this is actually very relevant to that, right? Here we are with so many things going on that something had to make way. And in this case, it was this programming in order to fit in the Patreon Saints games. I hope that you guys enjoyed those. So when this comes up, it generally means that we are folks who are inclined to say yes to too many things, or we are required circumstantially to say yes to too many things, whether that is, projects at work or caregiving or, zesty affairs, whatever it is, it's been... Spirit of God. It's been too much Christmas, and now things are beginning to come down around your ears. This art invites you to consider, as we see, here's the person there literally protecting their head. It's as if they had been balancing a precarious load of stuff on their backs and just kind of eventually lost it. The art here was deliberately made. It was designed to have some ambiguity, as many of the images are in this deck, to leave you to determine whether this is a sunrise or a sunset. All we can see is that there is dramatic lighting. The question is sort of circumstantial about whether this is the end of the project, like you have done too much and the curtain is coming down and now you find yourself in this predicament, or if the situation coming unraveled or slipping out of your control is part of the transition into a brave new world of you knowing better. So is this a dawn or is this a dusk? That is something that you may need to determine contingent on the other cards around. Folks will sometimes ask me, how can a card have both positive and negative, or perhaps you might say, how can it have benevolent or also shadowy implications? And it's not about the card meaning opposites. It's about the card having a meaning that is on a spectrum. So this card is about too much stuff and transition, right? But is that transition being experienced negatively or positively? A lot of times you will determine that by the cards in which it keeps company. For those of you that perhaps maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a part of a friend group or a peer group, and there's that sense of, somebody falling in with, folks who are a good or bad influence. That's how it is with tarot cards. The cards that are around this card, when it comes up in a reading, are going to help you to understand sort of how this will be experienced. Is it the, what is the word I'm looking for? Like the, oh God, yes, it's just about done? Or is it the, oh God, no, I thought I had it under control and I really didn't? So this card has a lot to say about those of us who say yes to too many things. Again, or have greatness thrust upon them. Now let's go to a cheerful card. Let's go with Pentacles. Again, Pentacles are the suit of Earth. They are practical stuff, health and wealth, as the old adage says. And some of you may be aware that there's a story that goes with this particular card. Let me know in the chat if you've heard that one before. Hey, Sally. So this is the 10 of Pentacles. Again, 10s are a very fully developed expression of the suit. And Pentacles, in this case, you're talking about, what is the 10th version of tripling down, quadrupling down, decahupling down? I have no idea what the word is, for 10 times to the down on things of this world. So this card often speaks to the notion of legacy is the term that is most sort of historically attached to it, you might say. We see here a person at ease. They appear to be in their garden. Everything is there. They are very relaxed. They are clearly doing some kind of like yoga or meditating. This is a person who can, again, we're opting for not the second camera this week. We can see here there's this sort of opulent sense of growth and abundance. They're surrounded by things that are intended to symbolize all that is juicy in life. Literally, there's a melon nearby. There's a pipe nearby. They're meditating in what appears to be all kinds of fancy jewelry and stuff because they can. They're surrounded by pets and kids and leisure and the pentacles, which are the symbol of this suit. If you look in the distance, you also see boat, fancy house, dock. There's a couple of some sort holding hands back there, if you can see the figures, who are intended to be sort of luminously happy rather than shadowy figures. The hummingbird, which of course is almost the fairy messenger of the bird world. Everything about this card is intended to say abundance and no need to be armored. Everything about it is relaxed. When this card comes up, it is often about what you've accomplished, what you have acquired, what you have built. In a sense, that legacy, it may be actual material stuff as represented here by boats and kids and jewels. It may be more a sense of a family, community, or tribe, as are also spoken of here by the fact that there's all these people who are clearly here together without it being some sort of heteronormative presentation. So it's intended to be ambiguous, not necessarily the nuclear family, but perhaps the kind of family that we make for ourselves. And in the mix of the natural world and the sort of concrete world of stuff and things, houses, docks, and boats, as well as gardens, mysticism, and kids, it may be more about what is the word I'm looking for? Like the impression that we leave in the world. So what that legacy is can be everything from a school of thought. This card is abundantly clear. Here's a little story about this card, which is, as you can see here, and again, perhaps you've heard this before. If so, let me know in the chat. We see here this person is wearing what appears to be a pair of high-waisted bike shorts, perhaps. In the original version of the deck, in the first edition, he was wearing no pants at all. Because to me, a person who is at liberty to sit in their yard and meditate with a tiara on their head was a person who didn't have to wear pants if they didn't want to. That totally made sense to me. Partly, I guess, as a result of my personal philosophy and relationship to the natural world, but also because I have spent a lot of time in radical fairy circles, which is a historic version of gay rural paganism. So a lot of people doing a lot of farm work in their nothings or just in their drag. So to me, perfectly normal expression of this card being presented in a way that, again, wasn't heteronormatively exclusive. However, between the first edition and the second edition, it came to my attention that some people who otherwise enjoyed the deck, found the relationship between a man with no pants and some playing children nearby, rather than speaking to the world being safe and charming and friendly in the way that it should be, was triggering for some people around the world being potentially dangerous. So it added an unintended element to the art for them of menace, and it was making it hard for people to enjoy the card. So as an artist, I had to make a decision about whether the art needed to change to meet the people where their issues were, or whether I could, as the artist, make the choice to modify my art to be differently received. This is a question all artists ask ourselves every day in every way. And in this case, if it was just around like, class issues or something, I probably would have said, screw it, people can do the emotional labor to come around to understanding what I was trying to say. Because the issue that people were expressing had to do with sexual trauma and childhood and so forth, I decided it totally was not worth putting people through that when they could just get the message and enjoy everything wonderful that this card has to bring to life. And hence, boom, bike shorts. So, although I think that in a future edition, maybe we'll lower the hemline a little bit, because I think they're a little high. It would drive me crazy to try to do yoga in high-waisted pants like that. So let me know how that strikes you. Like I would like to know if you were in my situation, how you might have chosen to address that. Because, as I said, every artist has to make these kind of decisions every day in every way, because we don't control how people receive our work, especially if you're doing something that is, if your art is like, graphics, like branding, that kind of thing, where the message is the thing, like buy, here's my beautiful poster, buy my cornflakes. That's different. But in a case like this, where you're trying to do work that is essentially revelatory, it's about absorbing information into your subconscious and then putting it out in a new, fresh way. Like sometimes you don't know what is coming out, or you don't know how people are going to get it. So what would you have done? Give the man some pants, different pants. So there's our 10 of Pentacles. Now we're going to come to, okay, you get to decide. We've got 2 cards left in the 10s. We've got super cheerful and super awful. Which one would you like to do next? I'm going to go back and push some of these buttons here while you think about it. We've got some hellos. Hello! Hello! Revenge of the Sith. Woohoo! There's springtime. Let me see. Thank you so much, Unity 000000. The card that is abundantly clear. Hey there, welcome. Hello. I don't know how to pronounce your name right now. Omid Arun Uktena, perhaps? Welcome aboard. Yes. Oh, and thank you, Blondie, about the question is, as an artist, what are you trying to accomplish? In the case of this artwork, the point is for it to serve as a tool. So I felt like anything that kept people from using it as a tool, let's see, and understand the dilemma. Yes, well, sorry to hear at the end of your day you had to pull back your vision a bit for the card. I thank you. That's very thoughtful of you. I feel that this character, this person, with or without pants, they still are here in their garden with their jewelry and their tank top and their beard. Like they may as well have a glitter beard. It seems to me like they are still really living their best life in Fabulopolis. So I didn't feel like they had to lose too much. If the hue and cry had been that, this whole thing needs to be changed to be less fabulous, then I would have interpreted that as like a kind of homophobia that I'm not willing to tolerate. But pants are all right. Hey, Reverend Tommy, thank you for being here. Oh yes, could you please grab me a bottle of that tequila? I would have asked if I knew you were going. Por de Don Juan. Okay, well, let's move on to the next card. We'll do the all right, so jelly of Reverend Tommy. We'll do the happy card, and then we'll do the more intense card. So for anybody who's just joining us now, my name is Madame Onça, and this is Tarot Talk for Tower Times. What I am doing, I'm in the habit of each week with a presentation, we touch on some cards in the deck, explain what their traditional meanings are, and perhaps something about how and why we arrived at this particular symbolism. I made this deck, so I got to make a lot of editorial decisions, shall we say, artistic decisions. And then if anybody wants to, answer questions about tarot technique and maybe read some cards. Let's see. What is Tommy saying about, yes, that would be great. I'm happy to reimburse you for some tequila if you would like to do that. Are we allowed to say that on the internet? I mean, I guess it's not clandestine. People buy tequila. We're allowed to do things.
Don't say anything about mailing it.
Yeah, there won't be any mailing. Funny, I'm about to go, we'll talk. I'm about to go on a road trip to see our dungeon master. We're going to meet partway between here and there in North Carolina. And I will, in fact, be transporting mead over state lines, but I will not
But
be.
he made it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm bringing it as a housewarming gift to the person who's being gracious enough to host us. Okay, so speaking of your cups, my cups, and being in our cups, let's talk about cups. So to reiterate, the suit of cups in the tarot typically refers to everything that is relational, connective. Sometimes it is about our relationships to others. Hence, they become the romance or family cards. And inevitably, they are also about our sense of connectivity to ourselves and our authenticity. Thanks for stopping by, Tommy. So tens are the quality of that suit amped way up. We saw with wands is driving passion and ambition. Turned way up, it's a little too much. It is, you were doing so many things, you accidentally melted the bottom out of the teapot. I'm just saying. In the Ten of Pentacles, we see an abundance of things, of security, of material wealth, of genetic representation, depending what kind of expression of pentacles we're talking about here. If anything, I will say that if there's a shadowy aspect to the Ten of Pentacles, all that abundance can start to feel a little heavy and staticky. So it is, I have everything I could possibly need. I have more than I could ever use. I'm leaving a huge mess for the people behind me to sort through. I guess would be sort of the shadowy end of that. When we come to the cups, boop, 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 we see here, this is traditionally a card that shows this card shows what appear to be a man, woman, girl, and boy, like dancing around in pairs under a rainbow. Very cute image, but again, a little heteronormative for me. I prefer to live in a world that is a little more, allows for more various expression by the universe. So we see here, and also I wanted mine to be more multicultural as well. But here we see some kind of family unit, some kind of group, some kind of community has come together. 10, abundance, it is a party. Cups are about relationality. So we see here, when this card comes up, it usually is referring to a party. It is referring to sometimes family, often community. It is often about how we feel emotionally fulfilled and satisfied in connection to those things. But of course, some of us are more introverted and don't need a crowd in order to feel emotionally fulfilled, in which case it's really just speaking to the sense that we are in ourselves. We contain multitudes, but it's about being emotionally fulfilled and satisfied. So we see here, in addition to the 10 cups, this one has a little quality of autumn to it. I wanted there to be a feeling of completing the cycle that goes from that sort of springy dampness of the ace through to here. So autumn leaves, and in addition to the family or community of various ages, also a dog. It's funny, I'm personally not much of a dog person in the real world, but in art, I use them all the time when I'm making art, because they definitely represent to me, aside from, hairs on the couch, what they represent to me at an artistic level is sort of everything that is the instinct the sort of wildness of the wolf, or the feral human, as it were, having come to a livable compromise. So to me, dogs are a kind of domesticity of the wild thing that makes civilization livable. That's what they represent for me. So when you see dogs, such as in the Ten of Pentacles card, where there's also dogs, or in the Moon card, where we see both the dog and the wolf represented together to speak to those sort of two different aspects of the symbolic psyche. If you have questions about that, please let me know. And if you're just joining me, I am Madame Onça, and I am the artist and the co-author of the World Spirit Tarot. So I am doing a little bit of a breakdown talking about tens. We've got one more 10 to go here in the minor cards. And then I believe I'll be doing this again next week, although I will be doing it from the secret Nat 21 location somewhere in North Carolina. So as long as we have good enough internet, then we'll be knocking this out. Let's talk about this last 10. So what remains? We've just gone through wands. That's fire. Pentacles. That's earth. Cups. That is water. And that brings us to swords. Swords are those dogs. They are. Swords are the suit of air. Intellect. Decision-making. Assertion of boundaries. When it comes to communication, at best, they are logic, wit, the broad perspective. At worst, they are cutting and wounding words. So the swords as a suit, you may have noticed over time, tend to be a bit fraught. A high percentage of the swords cards are a wee bit pokey. And this one is so much so that the 10 of swords, or the 10 of spades, has at periods in history has been known as a sort of a death card all of its own. The traditional definition that goes with this image says, not a card of violent death, lest ye be concerned. So here we can see here, someone is clearly being run through many times over. Incidentally, I don't happen to have it with me here this week, but the gummy bear deck, some of y'all have seen me work with that because it is a very traditional deck, sort of defanged, let's say. So that this particular card in that shows a gummy bear that has been run through by 10 swords. Something about that. And looks slightly deflated, as if it was like a jelly bear. I don't know. It's kind of hilarious, while still being charmingly gloomy. But this version of it is definitively melodramatic. We see here, we have Isis in the background, the goddess, arms raised, carrying her disc on her head. We see in the foreground Osiris, who has in fact had better days than this one, being run through by his brother Set, who appears to have already stabbed him one and is now pulling the sword out of his chest. What a guy. There is the implication in the art that maybe he is leaned up against a pyramid with the waters of the Nile rising up around him, chock full of swords. And just as in the 10 of Wands, once again, we see a rather melodramatic sunrise or sunset behind them. See what I did there? Set, because his brother with the head, that's his brother Set. Right? Nerd puns. So as you are probably aware, in the old mythology, Osiris is the dying and reborning, the dying and reborn god of Egyptian mythology, because he and his brother had this rolling antipathy, his brother being Lord of the Underworld. And they had a rolling challenge between them. And so Set finally tricked his brother, chopped him into lots of pieces, and threw the parts into the Nile. Isis, almighty goddess that she was or is, managed to round up the parts, more or less, make some amendments, and was able to use her powers of renaissance. She was able to bring him back to life, which is why in imagery, typically, you can tell whether Osiris is sort of natural complected. That would be him before he was chopped into bits. If you see him as sort of as a very stylized with green skin, that is a reference to him being reborn and rejuvenated in the manner of the Nile, which of course we all know historically was before they put in the dam. The big dam was very predictable in its rise and fall, and was one of the most abundant life-giving rivers on the planet, I believe, at the time. So getting into some of the artistic ambiguities here. Again, is it a sunrise? Is it a sunset? Are you at the beginning of your final struggle? Are you at the beginning of coping with the collapse of whatever circumstances were put into play by prior decisions and communication? Or, are you at the beginning of that end, or are you at the end of that end? The other cards around it may have some wisdom to offer. And in that case, is Isis, is she preparing her energy to help rebuild? Or is she still in the throwing her hands in the air and going, no, not my husband phase? The other cards will tell. I want to make a moment here also to point out that the color, if you think of what we think we know about basic Egyptian mythology and imagery, of course, we're talking about huge amounts of time and tremendous amounts of different deities and generations of people. Like it's a deep time that we're talking about. So there's no one way that the Egyptians thought, because they were many generations of Egyptians, and they were different Egyptians than we have now. So a lot of information. But in broad terms, when you think of Anubis or Anubis, like Zazizel and her charming cult and her charming headdress, we usually think of the black-headed jackal. This, you'll notice, is different. This is his brother Set. Again, a sort of stylized canid head, but that orange color. That orangey color was a choice that I made because the research that I had done suggested that contrary to what Eurocentric history wants to tell us, when these Egyptians first encountered people from Europe and the North with their pale skin and their orange hair and their blonde hair, they were considered outrageously homely, outrageously other. It wasn't like, ooh, blonde hair, how exotic. They were like, wow, because in many places in the world where people are melanistically gifted, if you have orange hair or yellow hair, it's actually a sign of starvation. So take it from the blondie here. So that orange was actually picked by me in order to further this notion of him being, very separate, very other from Isis and Osiris. He's really coming in as a disruptive interloper, like one of these crazy Gallic warriors. So anyway, there's a bunch of information about that. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, in this case, it's usually about you started some chain of things in motion by your previous decisions and communications, and now those things are coming to their sort of final iteration, if that makes sense. So there we go. So we saw some very cheerful tens and some very challenging tens. And yes, BLC Blondie, I am blonde too. I think it's useful to remember that, because the business about, hair color and so forth, because we don't get that messaging a whole lot. Even, I think if anybody remembers the very charming old film, The Gods Must Be Crazy, I highly recommend it if you've never seen it. It is essentially about some folks in continental Africa. I have to say it's been many years, I couldn't tell you where, sort of living their best uninterrupted life, and then a Coke bottle falls out of an airplane and lands in the middle of their village and becomes, people are looking at it, realizing that glass, it's cool, don't know where it came from, it could be used in different ways, becomes massively disruptive, and violence, vice, and avarice are introduced into their civilization by this single item, and somebody takes it on themselves to get it the hell out of their village, and so doing encounters all kinds of wacky Westerners who are just absolutely crazy. They want to take it to the edge of a cliff, I think, and throw it off. They're trying to send it back to the gods, basically. And they keep running into all these people. And because of cultural misunderstandings and because of Eurocentrism, at one point they run into a attractive blonde white lady, and the white people's subtext is just that, like, she's in terrible danger because she's so attractive and blonde. And this conversation that the other people are having about her is that something about that poor lady. She looks so sick and ghostly. And it's totally a commentary on the cultural baggage we bring to it. Right, Solani? Wasn't that a great movie? I have to say it. I don't know how it aged, but I saw it in the theaters when I was a kid, and again since then. And it was a beautiful opportunity to look at Western civilization and the so-called benevolent influence of the colonizers from a very funny perspective. Okay, are there any questions about tarot stuff? We've got a little bit more time. If anybody needs a reading, I'm here for that. It'll take me a minute to shuffle my cards, though, because I actually set them entirely in order the other day. Sometimes for energetic purposes, it's useful to give your cards sort of a factory reset. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 through the people cards, and do it all again, and do it all again, and do it all again, and then reorder all of your major cards as well. Kind of helps to get the energetic cooties out of the cards if they need that. And the good news is that if nobody out there needs their cards read, I know there's a couple people in this room who could certainly benefit from getting their cards read.
How dare you see that about me?
It's funny, I can't even see you, but I know it. It's like in some ways things have been great, in other ways things have been challenging, but I have to say May is already doing a lot. Okay, we've got some questions. When looking at a new tarot deck, are there particular cards you tend to zero in on first to get a feel for the deck? Unity, that is an incredibly good question. Anybody who's missing that, because there's typically 78 cards in a deck, right? So you might pick it up and go, ooh, steampunk, I like that art. Ooh, Art Nouveau, I like that. Ooh, Aubrey Beardsley, I like that. And that might give you a sense of the overall flavor. So the question here is, are there any particular cards that you can use as sort of a reliable, is the word I want to use, litmus test in order to see if a deck has some integrity? I would go to the Death card. That will tell you a lot right away about whether the artist is coming from a sort of whether it's a Judeo-Christian influenced deck, whether they are coming from more of a sort of neo-pagan perspective. It won't tell you if a deck is good or bad, but it'll tell you a lot about the sort of fundamental values that are being expressed through the art. So Death card, yeah, that's probably a real big one. I tend to look for diversity and representation. Like, is it all thin, rich white people? If that's your jam, then by all means do that. But that's not what I want in a deck. I want to see a diversity of people so that it looks more like the people I might be reading for or reading about, yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's any other ones.
Judgment.
The Judgment card. Thank you. The Judgment card is another one that's really going to tell you a lot about sort of the fundamental sex, death, and rebirth kind of worldview of the artist. So the Judgment card, it's either going to be very, resurrection-y, the last judgment-y, or it might be more about how we move through cycles of renewal, shall we say. So I hope that's useful. That's a good part of what I look into. Also, I guess the Devil card, likewise, that's another one that's going to tell you whether somebody is really working from that, like, Christian, the devil is bad, or is the devil sort of more of a personification of addictive and obsessive behavior? Yeah. Don't just look at the cards that are pretty, because plenty of people are drawn to make a deck because they want to make some pretty art or even to make some scary art, but they may only be good at one of those things. I have seen some decks in my day where a person who was only good at doing a horror type imagery tried to do the whole thing, and then you can end up with some very creepy, happy cards, which, if that's your language, it totally works. But okay, well, good. I'm glad that's useful. Okay, so BLC Blondie would like a reading as school is coming to a close, right? Okay, so my friend, Let me sit up in the Metatron's short little chair. Take a deep breath in for me, if you will. We'll try to get your energy into the cards here. As I said, they're just coming off being reordered. Just hold that thought. What's going on? The school year is coming to a close. We're moving to testing. There we go. All right. I don't have my handy second camera to show you what's on the table, but I will show you. Now, were we together, I would have you pull the cards yourself, of course, but in this case, I'll just hope that I can pull them with integrity for you. Everybody pulls their cards in a different way. Some people feed them off the top of the deck. Some people throw them all in the air. Some people pull according to a predetermined pattern. I tend to feel for some kind of heat or effervescence in the cards. Most of the time that works for me. Of course, everything is hot and clammy right now. Great. I try to, when I'm pulling cards, I try to be mindful of what my face is doing. You know, if you were doing some sort of like hyper-theatrical thing where it is your job to like visibly appear to be going into a trance because you're doing a community theater thing or something, I mean, you can do that. But generally, I'm actually usually working with, dare I say, kind of regular people, like, right? Well, not like committed mystics and weirdos, but folks who are like, this seems kind of cool and not too threatening. So I'm trying to not go, but rather just, you know, keep my face sort of composed and still feel what I feel. Let's see what we've got. I seem to remember having done a reading for you earlier, my friend, and it was, there was some heaviness in it, probably because being a teacher in the time of COVID was a pain in the butt. And interestingly, so we've got a nice mix of, once again, cards that are harsh and cards that are really sweet. So we're going to walk our way through them. Two of them we already know, because in spite of all my shuffling efforts, you just got two of the 10s, even though I pulled from all over. So we've got the card of burnout. It is possible that you've had a long year in school and are about ready to be done. And you got the 10 of Swords, which is our other big 10. That is the one that is about difficult decisions leading to difficult results and ultimately to resolution and moving into that sunrise, as it were, but not without doing some work, right? Like Isis doesn't just get to walk away and move on with her life. She wades into the fray and literally puts everything back together, which is basically what you've been doing for, you know, civilization this whole school year. I'm going to hold these two up together. You can see here, again, they both share this common theme. These are some of the only cards in the deck that have that sort of sunrise motif in the corner. And you can see there, the two figures are in their own way of sort of falling out of frame because it's been a lot. I dare say you've been busy. You also have the 5 of Cups, which we talked about a few weeks ago. Again, the 5s are about midway through that arc. Okay, and she says, yes, so ready for a rest. For anybody who didn't catch this, she is a teacher and has been working through all of this time. So then we come to the 5 of Cups. The 5s are chaotic. They are about good order disrupted. So even though in general the Cups are a suit about connection and about being with your feelings, the 5s tends to be fraught, as we like to say around here. So this card usually comes up when we have about had it. We are emotionally exhausted, but we are not done. There is legitimately spillage. There's legitimately a mess emotionally around you, and yet there's more to do. So we see, here's a real theme. Once again, we see this sort of warm, fiery, sunsetty clouds, maybe, and there's a horse figure waiting to carry our person away once they've had their minute to go, I'm so tired, I can't do it anymore, and then pick up those cups that are not yet spilt and make with the work. So the good news, my friend, is that those are all of the sort of judgmental cards that we pulled. Your remaining cards are quite charming, which is good because you probably could use a little rest and relaxation after this. You got the Magician card. Anyone who is a regular here in Nat 21 will understand in a moment why that is kind of funny for us. The Magician card is about mastery. It is about being totally capable of being good at all of the things. So it suggests to me that you're going to be fine, but you are going to deserve to put your feet up after all this. You can see here he is juggling all of the emblems of all of the suits. So it's about being able to do a little bit of everything and really already having the tools that you need in order to survive. Fortunately, your fifth card here is the Ace of Cups, which is about restoration of hope, energy, emotional connection, juiciness. I'm happy to see it sort of kitty corner to that Five of Cups, because the five suggests exhaustion and overwhelm, and the ace suggests a renewal. It is literally, when you pour a little bit of water in to get the well going and the whole thing refills. So looking at these across the board, also you have ace, 5, and 2 tens. And the Magician is card number 1 in the majors too. So everything here suggests that you are moving from the beginning of, from the end of one giant cycle and the beginning of the next one. So she says, yes, I've definitely done a little of everything all year. Like, not just be a teacher, but probably also be a social worker and an IT person trying to learn how to function in this brave new world of some kids are in school and some kids are out of school, and some people are having to live entirely from home, and some people have never used a computer before, and suddenly everyone in America has to have broadband in order to learn, buy groceries, or be employable. I bet you've been busy. All right. Anyone else?
You want to pull what weirdness is coming my way?
Yeah, we're going to pull some cards right here. Because some of us are on the road, but some of us are right here. Right here. The person never did come about the paint.
That's right.
Unless we're still waiting for rush hour to be over. I'm not sure which rush it is at this point.
Yeah.
It's funny, the cards are a little more subdued. It's like they're thinking. Right? Typically, I only pull 3 on these things, but tonight I felt inspired to pull 5. All right, let's see. Unity says, I've recently begun getting into studying tarot myself after looking at a lot of the different decks and systems out there. I settled on diving into Thoth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's been super fascinating. Feel a bit overwhelming. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we'll see if we can get to that one. That is a talk to me about learning cards. Hey, cards, do you have advice about cards? But for the moment, we're going to pull cards for that person. They could say anything. Okay. 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 Huh. Okay. Nothing doom and gloom, just process. So I'll talk to you through the cards I see as well. So I've got 5 cards across. One of them is a reversal, and I don't typically read reversals, but the person I'm reading for does. So I decided before I flipped it to read the reversal for her. We have the Two of Swords. The Two of Swords is typically a figure, 2 swords, very introspective in some way or the other. This card comes up when it's about decision making. It's about standing at a crossroads, and it is about taking a minute before you make definitive choices, but you can't sit on it forever. So there's always a cautionary note here about procrastination, and there's always also a note here to make sure that you have done your thinking.
That's the reversal.
No, that one's straight up. That's just straight up Two of Swords. On the far end of my lineup, here's our reversal. Is the Three of Wands. That is the I am afraid to step through this gate card. So the Three of Wands, back here, I can show you with the powers of the internet, with all these ones and zeros, we'll show you. There's our Two of Swords. Person going, I'm thinking, I'm using the force. There is no try, there is only do, but eventually this person, they will need to make a choice or their stance will fail and they will fall off this cliff. So there we've got that one. Now our Three of Wands is reversed. Reversals, as we like to talk about, are not the opposite meaning of the card, like love is not hate and vice versa. Usually it means some kind of like a blockage. It's like the energy of the card is blocked. This card generally speaks to, it's the Three of Wands. You've put in some time and things are starting to move. You can see the little ships coming in over here. Boop. But in reverse, it's as if you are unable or afraid to step through this gateway of opportunity that has been built. So there's a sense of passions, inhibited, progress stultified, being afraid to move forward. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but it does suggest that it's not, things are not all flowing freely at the moment. Here in smack in the middle, we have the High Priestess. The High Priestess, here she is. Sometimes this card is also known as the Lady Pope or the Popess. I don't know exactly at what point in history she stopped being the Popess, but presumably at the very least somewhere around the time when Pope things became problematic and we had big revolutions in religion. I'm sure that it was addressed by then, if not sooner, by the Catholics themselves, who of course eschewed the notion of divinity in women, except for the one lady. So the High Priestess, we see her here in a rather pagan iteration. She is the veil between worlds. I find that she comes up a lot when it is really important that we remember not just our meat puppet nature, but prioritize something about our mystical nature. Basically, be real and be available for your magic life, your spirit life, your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. She is all about things that are not merely logical, not to defy, I'm all for some science, but she says science and other. So we see her right in the middle. So here she is in the center with this card about decision making on one side and weighing things out. The other side is about energy that's sort of jammed up and not moving right now. And then we've got some other cards. We have a wand and we have a pentacle. When you're pulling cards, you are always looking to see if there is a plurality of something. Are there multiple tens? Are there multiple swords? You're looking to see if the cards have a lot to say to you about something in particular. We see here, she's got a couple wands cards. The Nine of Wands is a card that comes up around having some PTSD about things. It is a card about being vigilant. You are vigilant. You have learned vigilance for a reason. Your life experience dictates that you have to be fully alert in order to accomplish the 8 million things that a person who wants to live in the wand suit does. But it suggests that you have been on high alert for so long that you might be starting to get a little habituated to stress. That's how I would interpret that. You can see here, it's almost as if they're defending a palisade. Like, I've got to keep all these things lit for all time. I can never put anything down. So it's not quite burnout that we encountered in that 10, but it is about, it's about doing a lot and the price that we pay to do a lot. And then the 5th card that we have in here is our Sibyl of Pentacles. In my deck, which is the World Spirit Tarot, the Sibyl is analogous to the Queen. I wanted suits. I wanted court cards that weren't intrinsically classist. So here we have the Sibyl of Pentacles. You see, she's here as Chicomacoatl, who is a South American goddess of corn and hence of abundance and sort of staff of life. You see a little snake down there. Somebody pointed out to me that this almost looks like she's seated in a wheelchair, which I love, that she's like extra connected to the earth because she's actually literally grounded in her seat. I think that's really cool. So she being a queen, she speaks to self-mastery and mastery of resources. Again, pentacles are health and wealth. So in terms of all the practical stuff, as a personality, she tends to be very, very practical, very grounded, very obstinate. So I don't know how many of these things are gelling together for you. There's some scrunchy eyebrows over there, but
it's a little schizophrenic.
Yeah, there's what I'm getting overall over here. The thing is, like, we've been dealing with some stuff over here. She says, crying into her coffee. But these cards are not negative. You know, they're not describing like the worst of what is being experienced. They're describing a bit of the mixed bag. So I would say there's a sense of.
I said, give us the words. My question was, give us the words.
Right.
That we need. Give
us the words that we need.
I don't need to know about the situation. I need to know how to.
Well, you've got Priestess. The Priestess is in the middle. The 9 of Wands and the Sibyl of Pentacles are both about getting things done, right? The Sibyl of Pentacles is like staying grounded, staying focused, eyes on the prize, try to get reality in the shape that it needs to be in order to meet the material objectives. The 9 of Wands also is very driven, focused, fiery. Like I'm willing to stay up all night 3 days in a row if that's what it takes to get things done. But then you better take a nap or else. And that 2 of Swords and that 3 of Wands are saying, think, deliberate, don't rush headlong at something just because it feels like progress.
And no cups.
No, nary a cup to be had. These are all about things and stuff, not about tender feels. I mean, the Priestess obviously is chock full of feelings, but she is a state of being. So I hope it's helpful. They are a little all over the place. All right, I'm going to pull a few cards for you too, Unity. If anybody wants to, you are welcome to PayPal me or Venmo me a little donation at the bottom there if you would like to. No pressure. I'm happy to be able to do something for the community. But if the community wants to do something for me, that's okay too. All right. So I don't know how you would like me to pronounce your name, but I want to say Unity. Ooh. It says Unity 00. Unity. Ooh. So looking at the different decks, settling on the Thoth. Do the cards have any advice for me as continue down the path of study? Well, I can tell you, friend, I don't know if the cards do, but I certainly do. Unity works, however you want to say it. Unity. Ooh. Well, we've got a volunteer. 4 of Cups. 4 of Cups say stay with it even when you're not feeling the energetic charge of like, ooh, yay, cards are exciting. Sometimes it's not exciting. Sometimes it's just work. And as we said at the beginning, sometimes it's just showing up. Okay. advice.
Are you using the book book?
I am not. I just have the one deck with me here today. What does Unity need to know about the journey of cards? Oh, there's some heat. Okay. I just pulled 3. I'm also going to mention, if it's useful, I'm actually teaching a class tomorrow night from 7 to 9, and it's pay what you can, all levels. There's a fundamentals class at 7, and then at 8 o'clock, there's a special session on tarot for self-care. So that's one way you could learn more stuff if you wanted to do more of this. That's in a Zoom class format, so it's a little bit more interactive. And again, it's pay what you can. So, you know, whatever you can do. Ha! Woo! Look at you. Okay, so I pulled 3 cards for you on the subject of what advice you have coming at you. We did already get that volunteer card, which was the 4 of Cups. 4 of Cups can be about feeling like you've sort of hit a plateau and are feeling a little stagnant. So my advice there is when you hit that part, you know, give yourself a minute, but you may need to just push through because there's a lot of cards. And particularly with the Thoth deck, it is informationally, it was designed to be superlatively dense. Oh yes, just suck it up, as you say. Which is good, because the cards you just got are shit difficult. So Ace of Wands is great. That is you right now saying, I have chosen my challenge. I'm stepping through this gateway. I have drive. I have passion. I'm all fired up about it. I am moving through on this journey, literally holding the torch over your head saying, I want to see the terrain. So there's that. The other cards you have are going to be about changing your perspective on things. You've got the Tower card. The Tower card comes up as one of our major arcana. This card literally describes having a radical change of perspective. So whatever it is you thought that you knew, you may be about to get a serious re-education. Now, because this was specifically about your journey in tarot, I don't know what sort of information, historical or personal, you might have that you're bringing to the situation. So I can't speak to the specific nature of your re-education, but it sounds like there's some exciting things you're going to learn about the cards or yourself, and they may be a bit of a surprise at a start. A wise person once suggested to me that though we often encounter the Tower card with alarm because it speaks to things being hard, the great thing about the Tower card is that it's not just about your stuff getting shaken up, it's about false assumptions being dismantled about yourself. So what is your note here? Pretty secular approach to tarot, but I guess try to stay open-minded with everything, for sure. And if you're drawn to the Thoth deck, do not rely on the book that was written to go with it. The original book, it will give you very little information, but there are better resources. But that deck in particular has a ton of information because it was designed that way. It's not merely going to teach you about the history of tarot. It's also going to ask you to learn about astrology. And it's also going to ask you to learn about Kabbalah. And it's also usually incidentally absorbing a bunch of information about, you know, Western mysticism and the occult tradition. So if that's more than you're into, and you get wading in there and realize that trying to handle all 4 of those things at the same time isn't your style, then you may go, okay, then I need something that is Thoth-like and has that sort of integrity and history without quite so many layers. That's entirely up to you. The other card that you got is another one of our guest stars tonight. We have the, I don't know if I showed you the Tower. There's the Tower. So you see the figure getting the zap of surprising illumination as they go from one relationship to the universe to another. The other card that you got is the 10 of Swords. So that card we've talked about earlier. I know, right? I'm surprised. This card, again, is really very much about because swords are about decisions, perspective, communication style. It may be that the tarot wants to do some work with you around moving through some old ideas into some new ideas, or moving through some old ways of processing information. Like maybe, for example, if you describe yourself as a sort of secular learner, it may be that you are going to be surprised that some of the way that you can really absorb and work with some of this information actually is by leaning into its more mystical angles. Or maybe, you know, for somebody who is super woo-woo and into all of the, you know, sort of witchy shit, may turn out that the hole in their knowledge is actually sitting down and being systematic and keeping a journal and trying to be impeccable in their record keeping, right? So it may be that that sense of a shift is just going to come from reaching across the aisle to use the skill set that you don't typically use when you're coming to, you know, bringing your skills to bear on something. And again, at the beginning, we had that 4 of Cups pop out, which is, yeah, as you say, suck it up. It is continue to do the work, even once you're in the middle of, you know, whatever this 10 of Swords or this Tower moment is in your life. Try to keep using the cards and remember that they're a tool. They are an oar to help you paddle once you find yourself up a creek. So, sorry, that's a lot of information. I hope that it's useful. I'll hold them up since it's just the 3. I'll hold them up together. You got the Tower right in the middle, which means it was actually like this. Sorry. Nope. Sorry, it's backwards on here. It's weird to. There we go. You know, the third possibility. So there we go. While these cards were not chosen positionally, meaning I wasn't saying, you know, tell me about the past, present, and future, or option 1, option B, and option C, they were set down kitchen table style, right? Like I was just asked whatever cards to show up that had something to say. When you've got something like the Tower, which is it's kind of a big screaming emoji right in the middle, I feel like it's worth making a note of that as a sort of a fulcrum point, right in the middle, like an axis, just as we saw in the last one, where the High Priestess ended up in the middle, surrounded by non-major arcana. I feel like she's saying something about that still center, trying to balance all of these other influences. So good. I'm glad that that was useful for you, Unity. Ooh. Again, if you're so inclined, by all means, reach out to me on the book face at World Spirit Tarot, and I can get you the link for the Zoom class tomorrow if you want to jump in. At 7 o'clock, we're doing fundamentals, similar to what we're doing here. At 8 o'clock, there'll be a class on tarot for self-care. And I've been doing those classes through this month for folks who want more of an intensive, you know, you can come for 1 hour or 2, sort of a more of an intensive and interactive Zoom-tastic talk kind of format. And as always, we've gone over an hour. I want to thank everybody who showed up for me tonight. It's really great. And Blondie and Bill and Tommy and Unity and Sally, everybody out there. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I really appreciate you. It is early May. We are slogging into the brave new world. This class or this session, whatever we call this thing, this little thing we do, Tarot Talk for Tower Times, that is because I believe that we are continue to be in a moment of cultural transition. Nobody knows quite how it's gonna turn out. We hope that the new normal is better than the old normal, because the old normal was only good for a certain percentage of us. Wouldn't it be great if we can make a new normal that is significantly better for more of us, and not just the humans of us, but all of the sentient things. So hopefully we are building a better tower, leveling all towers. I'm not sure quite what the metaphor is that we want, but may your May continue to be transformative in these tower times. I hope that I'll see some of you tomorrow for class on the Zooms. Again, contact me on Facebook at World Spirit Tarot with moi. And then some of you, I hope that I'll be able to see you next week. My thanks go out to Nat21 Adventures and the Twitch, as always, for having me here. Feel free to reach me at any of all of these places. I'm on all the things. I have a Patreon, which I use as a way to help support all of the things that I do artistically. And yeah, it is always my pleasure. So let me see. Now this is the part where I'm here on my own. I have to make sure I can remember how to do the next thing. Wait, where did it go?
Brand videos.
There it is. Okay. Blessed be everybody. I will see you soon. Here are my outro credits. Bye.